Capital punishment, also known as death penalty, it is a state-sanctioned homicide of someone as a punishment for a crime. A sentence ordering that someone is punished with the death penalty is called a death sentence. An act of carrying out such a sentence is known as execution. What is your stand about death penalty? Agree or disagree? If I were to choose, I choose to disagree. No to death penalty, and this should be stopped. The death penalty has always been a very controversial issue. Death penalty violates the most fundamental human right, the right to life. It is ultimately cruel and inhuman degrading because an innocent person may be released from prison for a crime they did not commit, but an execution can never be reversed. Death penalty are usually handed out to people who have been found guilty of a capital crime. However, it is not so easy to consider death penalty as an easy way to punish the guilty. If the death penalty is to condemn, it does not mean that the guilty party should be released or allowed some sympathy. It would defeat the purpose, as it would be using violence to encounter violence. How can we tell if a man or a woman convicted for murder is really guilty? Would it be right to wrongly accuse someone and execute him or her? We should look at the ethical downsides. This has been a very serious problem for civil rights groups, religious figures, and other people who oppose the death penalty. The death penalty has a lot of ethical and religious matters tied to it. There are many who support death penalty while others oppose it. The death penalty violates the constitutional right of a human being. It is more of a barbaric and a cruel punishment against a living human being and can be classified as one of the worst acts of human nature. It defies all religious conventions, as it's not the right of the state to play God and decide who should live and who should be executed. When the law chooses its path, it can be biased too, as it may be too discriminatory. Civil rights unions have campaigned against the death penalty. The argument against the death penalty is that even though it's a punishment for a murder, it won't hurt to punish the murderer with a less harsh sentence. A death penalty would have been justifiable if it were able to prevent future crime. Does death penalty stop crime? Does it give victims justice? Is there a human way to execute? These are the reasons to oppose on death penalty. The death penalty violates the most fundamental human right, the right to life. It is the ultimate cruel, inhuman, and degrading punishment. The death penalty is discriminatory. It is often used against the most vulnerable in society, including the poor, ethnic and religious minorities, and people with mental disabilities. Some governments use it to silence their opponents, where justice systems are flawed and unfair trials reap the risk of executing an innocent person is ever present. When the death penalty is carried out, it is final. Mistakes that are made cannot be unmade. Don't victims of violent crime and their families have a right to justice? They do. Those who have lost loved ones in terrible crimes have a right to see the person responsible held to account in a fair trial without recourse to the death penalty. In opposing the death penalty, we are not trying to minimize or condone crime. But as many families who have lost loved ones have said, the death penalty cannot genuinely relieve their suffering. It just extends that suffering to the family of the condemned person. Revenge is not the answer. The answer lies in reducing violence, not causing more death. If you kill someone else, don't you deserve to die too? An eye for an eye? No. Executing someone because they've taken someone's life is revenge, not justice. An execution inflicts terrible physical and psychological cruelty. Any society which executes offenders is committing the same violence it condemns. Isn't it better to execute someone than to lock them forever? Every day, men, women, even children await execution on a death row. Whatever their crime, whether they are guilty or innocent, their lives are claimed by a system of justice that values retribution over rehabilitation. Any form of execution is inhuman. The lethal injection is often thought as somehow more human because, on the surface at least, it appears less barbaric than other forms of execution, such as beheading, electrocution, guillotine, and hanging. Human rights, including the most basic right to life, are universal and endorsed by the vast majority of countries in the world. Our call to end the death penalty is consistent with the mercy, compassion, and forgiveness that all major world religions emphasize. To date, 140 countries have abolished the death penalty in law or in a practice, demonstrating the desire to end capital punishment is shared by culture and societies in almost every region in the world. Human rights apply to the best for us and the worst for us. Does the death penalty prevent crime? Not according to the research. There is no credible evidence that the death penalty deters crime more effectively than a prison term. What if public opinion is in favor of the death penalty? Strong public support for the death penalty often goes hand in hand with a lack of reliable information about it. Most often the mystic believe that it will reduce crime. Many governments are quick to promote this erroneous belief even though there is no evidence to support it. Crucial factors that underlie how the death penalty is applied are often not understood. These include the risk of executing an innocent person, the unfairness of trials, and the discriminatory nature of the death penalty, all of which contribute to a fully informed view of capital punishment. Why I chose to disagree about the capital punishment or death penalty is because I am a Christian. Promoting the death penalty goes against the church position, and it is contradiction to the gospel. As a Christian, to put someone on death penalty is a crime and make us murderer because we agree on it. Death penalty does not respect the right to life. The right to life of a guilty man should not depend on others judging him to be worthy of it. Even if someone committed a crime, they still have the right to live. But because they committed a crime, they should pay the price or consequences they made. We should not put in our hands the justice for someone. Let the authority, law, and justice will be the one to punish them.